about a small business here, and Jordy, maybe I'll start with you and see if you have thoughts here. But if you're talking about a small business, does that change in terms of how an executive sponsor or leader within the organization needs to be involved and support an ERP project or a potential technology replacement?
I think that no matter what size of business you're working within, having that executive sponsorship or even just having that executive presence around to be able to communicate, this is why we're changing, this is the benefits of the transformation. And even understanding that it's not going to necessarily be easy, but it's something that the company is willing to invest in to make sure that you can get towards your future goals or your future revenues that you're chasing. I don't necessarily think that it matters on the size of the company. I do think that executive teams are typically more hands-on in a smaller business. I think that's just something that you can kind of assume. But in terms of the main decision maker, I think it still remains that project sponsor, the executive team that's really being that guiding light and really kind of reiterating the reason and all the pros for the transformation.
Yeah. What do you think, Nate? Anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I would just add, I think this will seem a little counterintuitive, but I think I totally agree with Jordy in the sense that executive leadership is a must, but I think it's that second level down that is really important, that you have a lot of buy-in from them and that you have a really clear, I call it chain of command, and that sounds a little army based, but that you have a real clear decision channel so that the executive sponsorship is needed to make sure that the project goes on and that everyone's bought into it. Then you need that second layer down that really are keeping all the divisions and all the departments focused, and they're the ones that are making the decisions for the organizations, but they're also the ones that are in charge of getting their troops underneath them marching in the same order. So I think that executive sponsorship, if you don't have that, you're likely to fail. But really that second level down is the level that provides the direction, the organization, and are really making the decisions for the entire project.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, that the executive leadership needs those agents below them and they need to really empower them to be decision makers. Oftentimes we'll see people will be at that second level, but might be a little uncomfortable with making these big decisions that are leading their company. So having that executive support and reassurance that, you are in this role for a reason and we empower you to make these decisions. Obviously escalate them if it's something that needs to be escalated, but that's a key point there, Nate. I totally agree.
Yeah, and then you also get the dynamic of the founder-led organizations. Usually these smaller businesses are oftentimes the original founder is still the one running the company. And, that could be a good and bad thing, when it comes to these projects, because you need that person oftentimes who people are following. And oftentimes people have worked for that same founder, that same leader the entire time they're at the business. But you need that person oftentimes to be the face of the change, even if they're not involved. I totally agree with what you guys are saying, that you can rely on that next level down to sort of empower them, make decisions, that sort of thing. But you need that founder leader who probably has been making a lot of decisions for the organization over time. You still need them involved in getting their buy-in and really supporting the change within the organization. In which, speaking of that, kind of getting into this, keeping with this whole thread of internal buy-in and getting the employees of these smaller businesses involved in these projects. Matt on LinkedIn says, one key to success is the change readiness of the team on the floor, not just the readiness of the execs who might be driving the implementation and transformation. So it kind of gets to what you guys are saying, is you need to get people involved outside of just, the CEO or the founder, or even the next layer down. You need the frontline people that are doing this job every day. You need them involved to enable the change like that.
Yeah.
So here's a question from Darian on LinkedIn. Darian asks, what are the most common missteps small businesses make during this transition, and how can they avoid them? Let's start with you, Nate. What do you think there?
Well, I think, and this will go right back to the point that was just made. I think the most common is that we start all of our engagements off with an executive visioning. So whether it's a small organization, this this session might be a couple hours. To some of our larger clients, we'll have a couple days that we'll work on this executive vision. But I think it's really important. And if you don't take this step, you're already starting off on the wrong foot. And that is getting the executive buy-in. So when you mentioned, Eric, that a lot of these organizations are founder-based and are founder-led still, it's really important to make sure the founder and the leader of the organization sets up a vision. The people below him understand the vision, and then all the way down to the if it's a manufacturing organization, all the way down to the shop floor. So having the executive vision and getting that vision out and communicating really well with the organization, just exactly where you are, where you're going, how technology is going to get there, and then what that means to everyone. So how your job's going to be different, and what are the changes you're going to see over the next 6 to 12 months, be it on the shop floor, at an executive level, at a mid-level, just detailing for everyone what exactly that means. If you don't have that clear vision and that clear communication, you're going to find everyone, it's kind of like, let's go over there and that's your target, instead of let's go to this exact target and let's figure out how we're going to get there.
Yeah, kind of getting everyone to row in the same direction and preach from the same hymn book. Is that the right? What's the cliche?
Yeah,
Sing from
exactly.
the same hymn book. I'm not sure about cliches. I always find a way to butcher them. That's really interesting.